Hey there, today we are going to look at how we calculate measures of central tendency. So that's mean, median, mode, along with the maximum and minimum using Google Sheets and using the functions within Google Sheets. All right, so here I have a pretend grade book. You could put any kinds of numbers in here at all, but let's just pretend that we've got these grades and we want to find our measures of central tendency. So Google Sheets have some wonderful built-in functions in order to help us do this. So first off, the mean or the average. Whenever you're typing in a function, you always want to start with an equal sign, just as if you were starting with a formula. And then if you start typing the word average, you see that there are a few different things, but we just want the basic average right here. Now, I can select this one of several ways. Once the parentheses are opened up right here, I can click and drag to highlight all of these numbers right here, and that will give me the average. I can also do an average. I'm just going to do the same thing just down below. I can also do an average where I just click on the column header right here. So I can click on the B right here, and it will select everything. This is especially helpful if you are going to be adding additional values down below. So if I add some additional values here, right now I see that I've got this as that number. Let's change it into a percent so it matches. So we've got the same percent right here. But now if I add additional values down below, let's say that I have 85% right there. I see that the second average right here is going to continue to change because it has selected all of column B rather than just these specific values right here. So you've got more than one way of selecting this. You can either highlight those numbers that you want to use specifically, or you can select all of column B and it will continue to add additional values as you add more values to that column there. Let's just go ahead and use the first one. And I'm going to delete this right here. And I'm going to delete these two values as well. So we found the mean, or we found the average. We also want to find our median. And to do that, once again, we start with an equal sign, and I'm going to start typing median. And I see that there's a built-in function right here. Once again, I'm just going to go ahead and select those values. I could also select the column header. I could click on column B, and I could get that to work. And here I see that I've got a median of 72.50. Similarly, I can do the same thing with mode. And once again, I'm just going to start typing mode. And I can select those values right there. Now, this comes back with an NA. And the reason for that is if we look at this, we see that no values are repeated more than once. So if there is no mode, it will come back as an NA. That doesn't necessarily mean that you type something in incorrectly. But let's change this 57% into a 55% so that it matches. And I see that I get 0.55. Right now, these values are coming back as non-percents. So I'm just going to go up here to format number, and I'm going to change them into percents so that they all match right here. So now that they're all percents, we can see that 55% is our most common occurring number right here. And there is not a function for range, but what we can do is we can find the maximum and we can find the minimum. So if we want our maximum, our function once again is just going to be max. If we click on that, we can select those and it will tell us which one is the highest. And then same thing here for the minimum. Oops. I want my title here and then my formula on the right side. And I can get those right there. Now you may be looking at these and you may be like, well, some of these are really easy to calculate. I don't even necessarily need to use a function. The useful thing about these is that you can add more values and it will automatically change. Right now, my maximum is at a 95, but if I add an additional value that's, let's say, 97%, that's automatically going to change. It's going to recalculate, and you don't necessarily have to change anything because it does all of the work for you. And that's why these spreadsheets are helpful. The other thing you might notice is we have some blank spaces in here. Well, right now, all of our formulas are not counting those for anything. So let's say, for instance, you are wanting to leave those blank and you're wanting to leave those out of the calculations. Maybe they missed the test, and so you're not putting that grade in and you want to leave that blank because you only want the averages of the students who took the test. That's perfectly fine. The formula is taking care of that for you. But let's say, for instance, that you do want to include those in as a 0. Let's say they missed the test and you have entered those grades in as 0. It is not counting those as 0 unless you type a 0 into those cells right here. So if I put a 0 into this cell, notice all of these values change. Now I have a minimum of 0. Before I had a minimum, I believe, of 51. So all of these values change when I enter those zeros in. So be aware, if you leave blank spaces, the formulas do not count those for anything. So your average is not taking those cells into account. It's only taking the cells into account that have a value in there. If you don't, if that's what you want, then you're set. But if you want these to count as 0, you actually have to enter those zeros in. So we see that we have very different numbers as far as our mean is concerned, our average is concerned, when we enter those zeros into place. So be aware, when you are using formulas, if the cell is blank, then it counts as nothing. It doesn't count as a value for those calculations. But if you put zeros into those cells, it will count those as a 0. It will use 0 as the value in those calculations there.